The NL East deficit sits in a game and a half in a huge series against the division-leading Mets looms. But to keep that series as big as it can be, the Braves have business to take care of against the last-place Nationals. This is BPTV, Cory McCartney, along with Grant McAuley, as always. And Grant, the Mets play just 2 games this week before the weekend series in Atlanta, and the Braves, they could not ask for a better opportunity than against an opponent in the Nationals that they're 12-4 against so far this season.
Yeah, and we knew that the Braves were going to have to make up a couple of games just to catch up with the number, as far as the 162 with the Mets heading into that series. So this is going to be the week where all of that kind of starts to even out as well. But yeah, if you could handpick an opponent to try to, at least make up a little bit of ground if possible between now and the time that they welcome the Mets to Truist Park, the Washington Nationals would be pretty high on that list. The Braves have done a great job beating up on a team that they should be beating up on all season, save maybe the first meeting between these two teams way back in April. But as you and I and anybody watching this knows, the Braves are a very different team now than they were back in April.
So the Braves have set their rotation up for the Mets series with Max Fried, Kyle Wright, and Charlie Morton in line for those starts. And with Spencer Strider done for the regular season with an oblique injury, much is up in the air pitching-wise for this series. Kyle Muller is likely to get a start. Jake Odorizzi, despite his struggles, is lined up for this series as well. What we know for sure, though, is that Bryce Elder is going to go in Monday's opener. He has a .96 ERA in his last 3 starts, 22 strikeouts in 18 2/3 innings over that span. Elder was very strong against the Nationals his last time out, 1 run in 5 2/3. He has not allowed a home run going back to 21 innings in his at the major league level. Minus Strider, Elder really does loom large the rest of the regular season, and that starts now, Grant.
Yeah, he really does. And this has been a key arm for the Braves down the stretch. I know we can talk about Max Fried and Spencer Strider and Kyle Wright and Charlie Morton and who's going to be in your playoff rotation. And look, nobody's talking about Bryce Elder in the playoff rotation, but let me tell you, he has helped the Braves rotation get to the position that it needs to, whether it be resting an arm here or there, whether it be stepping in when somebody's unable to go to the post, whatever it's been in the second half. The Braves have been able to lean on Bryce Elder. They're going to do so again in the opener against the Nationals. And I think that we're seeing kind of the evolution of a kid that came up, got an opportunity, didn't pitch altogether that poorly the first time. Then he went back down to Gwinnett, continued the work, grew that great beard, and came on back. And he's pitching like a guy that has taken that experience and turned it into the lessons he needs to get just a little bit better. So I'm excited to see Bryce Elder get these opportunities. I've been more excited at the way that he has excelled in stepping up and giving the Braves the innings that they need. But I don't know that there's a bigger story as far as maybe a rain cloud that's forming over the Braves postseason rotation plans than that of Spencer Strider's oblique that did land him on the injured list, despite the fact the club felt like early on, at least, that wasn't going to be the case. So we'll continue to monitor that. But the Braves have got to get themselves where they want to, and that's the top of the National League East standings, and do so without Spencer Strider. But it sure is nice to have some pitching depth and somebody that's thrown some good games for them here in the second half to at least be able to lean on. Even if this is not the series everybody's eyeballs are going to be glued to, Bryce Elder has been kind of a key man for the Braves rotation in the second half.
Yeah, nothing wrong with taking it, the cautionary route there with Strider. Obviously, oblique injuries like this, we know they can be tricky. Sometimes they take up, 6-8 weeks for a guy to heal. And obviously, they can always pop back up when a guy does get back. So you have to, be understandable of them kind of taking it easy with him. You mentioned Elder. The walk rate from him has just gone way down since early in the season. I think that was the issue for him early on. But certainly, he has utility. He could have utility at the postseason as well as a potential long relief guy. But obviously, right now, filling a void there with Spencer Strider on the IL and the Braves without one of their key Rookie of the Year candidates. The Braves offensively do have some key pieces that are in dire need of breaking out with October looming. None more so than Matt Olson. He hit 167 on this road trip. The past 30 days, he has a weighted run created plus of 8. He's not exactly killed Nationals pitchers either, a 242 average, but he does have a 749 OPS against them. Olson hitting 162 against fastballs this month with a 37% whiff rate. That's his highest whiff rate of any month in a 162-game season, the second lowest average against that pitch. A sign of life Sunday with a run-scoring double against the Phillies, but I don't know that there's a bigger concern for this lineup with the postseason looming than that first base position with Matt Olson.
Yeah, the offense there has been pretty much, it hasn't been there at all. I mean, it's been completely in absentia at a time in which, and not that there's ever a good time for a slump, but if you could pick one of the worst times coming down the stretch when you need key hits from a guy who's supposed to be a run producer in the middle of the order, this has been a September to forget for Matt Olson. He finally got that day off on Saturday. At that point, he'd been batting 111 with 2 extra base hits in the month of September. You mentioned the struggles on fastballs. You went through and did the homework as you always do. But anybody who watches these games sees Matt Olson getting beat to the spot by fastballs. And we're not just talking about those Jose Alvarado 99 to 103 mile an hour fastballs. We're talking about 92, 94 up and away. He just has not been able to, find a way to get his swing back in the way that it needs to be, and to be able to pulverize some pitches that have been of a kind of, I would say, at least a hittable nature some of the time. Not everything has been a quality pitch in all these swings and misses. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's going to be some strikeouts in everybody's game in baseball in 2022. It just seems like there's an extra layer of struggle that you pointed out to what's been going wrong for Matt Olson. More strikeouts. And again, this is not just a slew of nasty sliders and breaking balls that's getting him. There's been a lot of struggle on the fastball. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. And hopefully, as I'm sure Matt Olson's well aware of what this struggle is, he's going to find some ways to adjust this. Maybe a day to decompress was something that he needed. Not huge results on Sunday, but a couple of hard hit balls. That double, he also nearly hit a solo home run that would have tied up the game late. So a couple of good swings. I think that at least can be a little bit encouraging, but you're going to need to see 2 or 3 good swings a night to start feeling like the old Matt Olson that we saw early in the season. And when he got on a very nice run in the middle of the year, has finally gotten back to being a little bit more of the hitter that he is.
I mean, the league's worst pitching staff would be a pretty good springboard to get back on track. I mean, the Mets are going to line up Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, and Chris Bassett this weekend. So get in those good swings while you can. 5 Braves regulars, including Michael Harris, Austin Riley, Travis d'Arnaud, Dansby Swanson, and Vaughn Grissom, have an OPS over 875 against the Nationals. Riley's at 1,086 with a team high 8 homers. Harris has an OPS over 1,100. So I think you can expect plenty of fireworks. And of note, the Braves have scored 98 runs against the Nationals this season. That's the most against any opponent since 1990. They've had more than 100 runs in a season series 10 times. This will be the 4th time, as long as they don't get shut out over the next 3 games, that they've done it against the Nationals and Expos. That's the most of any opponent. So, Grant, obviously everything's set up offensively for the Braves to break out in a big way over the next 3 days.
Yeah, and one of the pieces that you were really wondering about in the weekend in Philadelphia that you needed to see something from was Ronald Acuna Jr., because he was not in the lineup for the first 3 games, came in the 4th game late, drew a walk that helped the Braves get into a bases loaded situation where a wild pitch tied the game. Then he had the go-ahead base hit that put the Braves on top in the 11th. And most importantly, it wasn't just the one pinch hit appearance and then done. He was able to go out to right field and kind of resume those duties. Brian Snitker talked about it after the game. He saw Ronald had the spikes on. He checked with the medical staff. They said, yeah, he can hit. He can also play the field. So he made the decision to pop him out there in right field. And as it turned out, pretty darn good decision. As Acuna, when he's on the field, you just feel like the Braves' chances of winning go up. The numbers bear it out. Their record with him, I feel like, has been far better than their record without him in a long-term sense of things. So they're going to need him healthy. They're going to need him back out there. Hopefully that back issue is something he can put behind him, quite literally and figuratively, and no pun intended. And then as you head into the series against Washington, something else I was digging around in is the Braves have not had a 100-win season since 2003, and they have 9 games remaining. They need 5 wins in those 9 games to get to 100. 3 wins against the Nationals would go a long way. They've got a series against the Marlins on the other side of that big Mets series. But, we haven't been talking about a 100-win Braves team in quite a while, and it may not be enough to win the National League East because the Mets are also on a pace for a 100-win season. This is a fascinating way to close things out in 2022 with a pennant race that could very well come down to the wire.
Yeah, a big week for the Braves in their drive for that 5th straight division title. We will keep you abreast of everything along the way here on BPTV. We'll be back at it later this week as we set things up what figures to be a massive series against the New York Mets. Until next time, I'm Cory McCartney. He's Grant McAuley. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon, Braves country.